Welcome to this week's AMT Standard Bank Fresh Produce Market Overview. In this week's episode, proudly brought to you by Standard Bank and Villa, we discuss why demand can start to improve towards the weekend and what the effect on market prices can be. So make sure to stay tuned. Our biggest movers for the week was cabbage with a 21% drop in prices, while tomatoes also dropped by about 17% last week. The one factor to watch this week is how demand will change towards the weekend. Can it start to improve and support prices? Also make sure to keep an eye on the weather with very cold spells forecasted, which can also drive prices. But with that, let's dive into the latest prices of the week. The national average potato price stayed on a lower level and decreased to an average price of 52.31 per 10 kilogram bag. Large potatoes traded lower on 62, mediums at 50 and smalls at 30 rand. Mondials dropped to about 49 rand, while Cifras came in at 60 rand per 10 kilogram. The average price for class 1 potatoes across all sizes was 57 rand 98. We expect volumes to stay on these higher levels for the foreseeable future as the Eastern Free State region finish up and Limpopo is starting. This can keep prices on these lower levels for now. What, however, can drive prices is the change in demand. We expect demand to pick up towards the weekend, which can result in the average weekly price to come in slightly higher compared to last week, but don't expect any fireworks for now. The average onion price decreased by 10% to 85.22 per 10 kilograms and is now 12% lower than a year ago. Brown onions averaged on 89 rand, red onions increased further and traded on a massive 167 rand, while the white onion price decreased to 77 rand. Large onions traded lower on 93, mediums lower at 91 and smalls at 67 rand. I think that we have seen a peak in prices about 2 weeks ago and that higher volumes over the next 2 months can drive onion prices downwards from here on out. However, expect especially white and brown onion prices to drive the average price downwards as we head to August. Higher demand towards the end of this week can maybe stabilize prices for the short term. Tomato prices decreased by 17% to a national average price of 10 rand 81 per kilogram. Large tomatoes traded at 10 rand 88, mediums on 11 rand 28 and smalls at 10 rand 67. Volumes are not so high at the moment on the markets and keeping prices above the levels of the previous years. A bit cooler weather can result in slightly lower volumes than usual, while demand is also likely to start improving from the end of the week. This can maybe give some support to prices towards the weekend again and support the average weekly prices. As expected, carrot prices dipped by almost 13% last week to 7.31 rand per kilogram, mostly due to lower demand. Large carrots traded on 8.06 rand, mediums on 5.97 rand and smalls at 5.11 rand. We still expect supply to the markets to pick up over the next few weeks, which can keep prices in this downward trend as we head into July and August. Higher demand towards the weekend can, however, result in a temporary higher price. This video is proudly sponsored by Villa. Through world-class technology like MasterLock, localized for South African conditions, Villa helps you manage risk, increase productivity, and get it right the first time, backed by research that keeps you ahead. The average paper price decreased by 15% to 16.25 rand per kilogram. Green peppers came in lower at 11 rand, yellow peppers decreased to 28.46 rand, and the red peppers decreased to 25.82 rand. This average price is now 66% higher than this time last year, with volumes 9% lower year on year. I think that we can see higher prices over the next 2 weeks due to higher expected demand as well. Cabbage prices decreased by 21% to 2.65 rand per kilogram and is likely to stabilize this week as well. garlic prices decreased by 1% to R78.18, with local garlic prices now on R81.02 and imported garlic on R81.42. Garlic prices will likely remain on a higher level during June and July and then start trickling downwards from August onwards as more volumes will likely enter into the markets then. Spinach prices dropped by 11% to R4.48 per kilogram, with prices that will likely remain around these levels during June, July and August. Sweet potato prices decreased by 3% to R4.93 last week and can remain around these levels in June as well. Pumpkin prices decreased slightly to R3.37, while butternuts decreased by 3% to R5.66. Green beans increased to R12.15, while cucumbers traded lower on R18.34 last week. Our latest monthly and weekly reports are also now available on our website, so go check them out at amtrends.co.za now. In the fruit markets, the average banana price dropped by 10% to R6.46, which is on R116 per 18 kilogram box. My expectation is that banana prices can stay on a lower level at least until August, with extremely high volumes still on the market, which is driving these prices lower at the moment. Apple prices traded on R9.01, slightly lower week on week, while pear prices also came slightly under pressure on R9.02. Orange prices stayed on a lower level as expected and dropped by 7% the past week to R4.36 per kilogram. We anticipate prices to remain on a lower level over the next 2 to 3 months due to higher expected volumes. Avocado prices decreased slightly but mostly remained sideways on R16.09 per kilogram, which is still about 14% above last year's levels. Fiates traded on 22, Haas on 13 and Pinkertons on R14 per kilogram. We continue to expect a slight upward price trend until October due to volumes that will also stay in a slight downward trend, but we don't expect any drastic price changes soon. The average grape price decreased by 2% to R61.82 per kilogram. Expect grape prices to peak in July and remain on higher levels in August due to lower volumes on the markets. Pineapples dropped to R9.73 and is likely to remain on a lower level in June and bottom out in July and August. Lemons decreased to R4.96, while the average blueberry price dropped to R158 per kilogram last week. This episode was proudly brought to you by Nedbank and Villa. For more detailed insights, forecasts and free tools, visit amtrends.co.za now. I will also put all the links to our social media platforms in the description below. I'm Dr. Johnny van der Merwe. Thanks for tuning in and see you next week.